Hello everybody, it's Jeff from Quilt Home in Glastonbury here with the May block of the month in the Stroll by the Seaside series. This one is called Starfish. This one was actually inspired by a recent quilt show I went to in Portsmouth, Rhode Island by the Quilters of the Quilters by the Sea quilt group with my mother. I went to the show and I saw that they used the triangles we were using, but also had these stitch and flip half square triangles in the corners, and I thought it made this cool kite shape. So that's what inspired this one here. I really like how it turned out. And before we start anything though, we did have our competition from last year, and I wanted to show you the top vote getters and reveal the winner. So we had a tie for third place. We have Aria's quilt here, and we also have Sue's quilt, where our third place holders. Very, very cool quilts here. Then in second place we have Pat's quilt, another wonderful quilt here. And our grand prize winner is Deb, who made this wonderful quilt here. Deb, you can come by and receive your gift card as a for winning. Thank you for everybody for participating. It's always very cool to see the finished products, and it's very inspiring for me to see you take the blocks I give you and do amazing things with them. So I want to thank everybody that participated, whether you finished a quilt or not. You're a integral part of our store and everything we do. So let's move on to Starfish. Here are the pieces that you're going to cut for this month's block. From your focus fabric, you're going to cut 4 5" by 5" squares and 1 4.5" by 4.5" square. Then from your accent number 1, that's my turquoise, you're going to cut 4 4.5" by 4.5" squares. From accent color number 2, that's my white with blue shells, you're going to cut 8 2.5" by 2.5" squares. And then from the background, you're going to cut 8 2.5" by 2.5" squares, as well as 2 8 by 6" squares, or 8 by 6" rectangles. First thing, we're going to take our 4 5" focus fabric squares, and you're going to align one of the edges with your triangle squared ruler or the template I gave you. If you're using the ruler, you're going to align it with the 4.5" mark on the ruler. And you're going to cut out triangles from our ruler, and you're going to cut out 4 triangles from the focus fabric. Next, we're going to we have 2 8 by 6" background rectangles, and you're going to fold them in half just as shown here. And then you're going to take your perfect rectangle ruler or your template, and you're going to cut from the bottom first and then from the top. If you're using that perfect rectangle ruler, you're going to align it with the 5.5" mark on the ruler. And after you're done with this, you're going to end up with 2 different kinds of rectangle triangles, remember. So you're going to have 4 that I'll call left triangles and 4 right triangles. We're going to do one last bit of prep work before we start sewing. We're going to take our 2.5" squares, so that's our 8 2.5" squares from accent number 2 and our 8 2.5" squares from the background. And on the back side of the fabric, you're going to mark a line from one corner to the other. And now we can start sewing. So we're going to start by making those triangles. So you're going to take one of your background triangles and line it up right sides together with the focus fabric triangle. Remember, we have a left and a right, so just make sure you have that correct side aligned with the right side so that it will make your block correct there. The background triangle should overhang a little bit on either side of your focus fabric triangle. Remember, these are made oversized, so there is some wiggle room that we're going to trim after. So once you do that, you're going to sew your 1/4 inch, and you're going to iron that background triangle over, and then you're going to do the same with the other triangle on the other side. Sew your 1/4 inch and iron that. And then once you're done with that, you're going to trim the final block to 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, remembering to leave a 1/4 inch here between the top point and the edge of the block for the seam later. In all, you're going to do this 4 times, and you're going to end up with 4 of these triangle blocks. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. So we're going to stay with these triangle blocks now, but you're going to take your background 2.5 inch squares, and you're going to align one with a corner just as shown here on the screen, and we're going to do a stitch and flip technique. So I don't think we've done any this year, but we've definitely done these in blocks of the month before. You're going to sew on the marked line, cut a 1/4 inch seam, and then iron that open or toward the corner there. Now, one thing I always like to have people remember when we are doing this is I'm saying sew on the line, but really I want you to sew just a hair to the edge of the line, because if we sew on the line, it may end up a little short, because when we iron it, it's going to take up some room in that seam. So you're just going to be a hair over from the line, and you can do that by just, sewing on that edge of the line, or you can even move your needle position a tick or 2 over, and that's going to allow you, when you iron, for that square to be perfect for you. So we did that on the one side, and then we're going to do that on the other side as well, just as shown on the screen. So on that marked line, cut your 1/4 inch seam, and then you're going to iron that. And you'll end up with this cool kite shape for your focus fabric, and you're going to make 4 of these blocks. Then we're going to do some more stitch and flip. This time you're going to take your 4.5 inch accent number 1 squares, and you're going to put on opposite corners, just as shown on the screen again, your 2.5 inch accent number 2 squares. Then you're going to sew on that marked line, cut your 1/4 inch seam to trim, and then you're going to iron those to make 4 of these blocks, just like shown here on the screen. Then it all comes to just putting it all together. So you're going to put everything just like this. Make sure you pay attention to the alignment of these blocks, because they are in different directions, so just make sure that everything is good before you start. And then you're going to sew your rows together, and then your top to the bottom. You'll notice the center block is your 4.5 inch focus fabric square, and you have your finished starfish block here. This one was a lot of fun. Again, thank you to everyone who participates in our block of the month. You mean a lot to the store. And we will see you next month. That'll be June 27th for the next block of the month.